Alpha King collapsed at Omega's door, then demanded to know who returned his lost heart mark. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Nathaniel Stone, the Alpha King of the Kingdom of Orinthia, was known for his strength, power, and unwavering leadership. He commanded respect wherever he went, feared by enemies and admired by allies. Yet, on this day, something was different. Something was terribly wrong. It was as if the very essence of his being had been torn apart. His steps faltered, his vision blurred, and before he knew it, his knees buckled. The mighty Alpha King had collapsed in front of a simple wooden door, Emily Hart's door. The door that had haunted him in his dreams. The door that seemed to whisper his name in the dead of night. But why had he fallen here of all places? It was not just exhaustion or an illness that brought him to his knees. No, it was something far deeper. Something far more intimate. Emily Hart, the Omega. She had been part of his world in a way he could never fully explain. They shared a bond, an unspoken connection that neither could ignore. He had felt at the moment they met, an undeniable pull, a force stronger than anything he had ever encountered. But that bond had been broken. It had vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving him with a heartbroken void he couldn't fill. Emily had been the keeper of his heart mark, the symbol of their connection, a mark that bound their fates together, but had been lost. And Nathaniel, in his desperation, had no idea where to begin looking for it. Until now. Now, as he lay on the ground in front of Emily's door, he knew there was no turning back. He had to find it. He had to know who had returned his lost heart mark. His breathing was shallow, his body weak, but his resolve was stronger than ever. Emily, unaware of the depths of Nathaniel's struggle, had been living a quiet life. She was just an ordinary woman in the eyes of most. But to Nathaniel, she was so much more. She was his other half, his Omega, his destiny. As the Alpha King lay on the ground, the wind began to stir, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth, a scent that reminded him of Emily. He had searched for this moment for so long, and now that he was here, it was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together once again. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the scent wash over him, and then, with all the strength he could muster, he banged his fist lightly against the door. His voice, hoarse and strained, barely escaped his lips as he spoke the words he had been holding in for far too long. "Emily," he whispered. "Who? Who returned my heart mark?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the wind howled through the trees. Nathaniel's heart raced, not just from the physical exertion, but from the fear that Emily might never answer. He had to know. He couldn't survive without that answer. But would she open the door? Would she even remember who he was? I'm sure Emily heard him. The sound of Nathaniel's fist softly thudding against her door reverberated in the stillness of the night, followed by the wind's mournful cry. But no answer came. His heart thundered in his chest, each beat louder than the last. Time seemed to stretch indefinitely, and he began to doubt his sanity. Was this a dream? Or had the bond between them truly been severed? Emily had never known the depth of his feelings, nor the weight of the heart mark she carried. She probably didn't even know what it meant. To her, it was just a symbol, a mark that faded over time like all the other meaningless rituals of their world. But to him, to Nathaniel, it was everything. He had given his heart to her in a way no one else could understand. And now, as he knelt before her door, he feared he had lost the very essence of who he was. The heart mark, their connection, was gone. A part of him was missing, and that void threatened to swallow him whole. Nathaniel's breath hitched, and he knocked again. A little harder this time, his voice trembling with desperation. "Emily, please. You have to know who did this. Who took it from me?" The door remained silent. The night seemed to mock his helplessness, the shadows stretching longer with each passing second. He staggered back slightly, his legs unsteady beneath him. His thoughts were racing, spiraling out of control. He had to be stronger. He was the Alpha King. But right now, in front of this simple wooden door, he was nothing but a man, lost, broken, and vulnerable. The realization hit him with such force that he nearly collapsed again. For all his power, all his might, he could not retrieve the one thing that truly mattered to him. Emily. The one person who could fill the emptiness inside him. The one person he needed. His fingers curled into fists at his sides. He wasn't going to give up. Not now. He'd come this far. He would break down the door if he had to. Emily had to know something. She had to. He leaned closer to the door, his face now inches from the cold wood, his breath fogging up the surface. His pulse was erratic, each throb of his heart sending a new surge of energy through his veins. Emily, his voice softened, a whisper now, but still laced with urgency. I've waited so long. Please, just tell me what happened. Please tell me who returned my heart mark. His words hung in the air, heavy and thick, as if the entire world was holding its breath along with him. Nothing. There was only silence. Then the door creaked. Slowly, almost imperceptibly. Nathaniel's breath caught in his throat, his eyes wide as he waited. Was it Emily? Or was it his mind playing tricks on him? Another moment passed, and the door creaked again, this time a little louder. The sound was unmistakable. Someone was on the other side. His heart soared with a mixture of hope and fear. He wasn't alone. Emily was there. He wasn't sure what he expected when the door opened, but he hadn't expected this. The figure that stood before him was not Emily, not entirely. She had the same familiar scent, the same energy that made his heart beat faster. But her presence was different. There was something about her, something he couldn't place. His heart pounded in his chest as he locked eyes with the stranger. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, finally she spoke, her voice quiet but clear. Nathaniel Stone, she said, her tone almost knowing. You've been searching for your heart mark. But what if it was never lost? I am sure Nathaniel was not expecting her words. The stranger who stood in front of him was not Emily. Yet there was something so familiar about her, something that stirred his heart in a way he couldn't quite understand. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Who was this woman, and why did she carry the same aura as Emily? He could feel his pulse quicken, his body tense with both hope and confusion. What do you mean? Nathaniel's voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. He wanted answers, needed answers, but this stranger, this woman, was not the one he had come looking for. And yet, in a way, she was. You've been searching for your heart mark, she repeated, her gaze unwavering. But what if it was never lost? Nathaniel's heart skipped a beat at her words. His breath caught in his chest as the weight of what she was saying began to sink in. Could it be true? Had he been searching for something that wasn't really gone? His mind struggled to process it. He had always thought the heart mark was a physical object, something tangible. But if what this woman said was true, then what was he truly searching for? He stepped forward, his eyes locked on hers. Who are you? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. The woman did not flinch. She simply stood there, her expression calm and serene, yet there was an undeniable strength in her presence. I'm someone who knows more about your heart mark than you think, she replied softly. And I know why you've come here. But the question is, why have you come now? Nathaniel could barely form a coherent thought as the woman's words echoed in his mind. Why now? Why had he suddenly been drawn to this door, to this moment? Was it coincidence, or was there something more at play? He glanced at the door behind her, then back to her. I came to find Emily, he said, though the words felt foreign to him now. She holds a heart mark. She's the key to everything. The woman shook, her head slowly, a small, knowing smile playing at the corners of her lips. Emily has no idea of the significance of the heart mark, Nathaniel. She never did. It's not about her. It's about you. His confusion deepened. He had no idea what she was talking about. He thought he had understood the bond between him and Emily, the deep connection that tied them together. But now, this woman was telling him that he had been mistaken. But the heart mark, he said, his voice faltering. It's the symbol of our bond. It's why I need to find it. I know, Nathaniel, she interrupted, her tone firm. The heart mark is not what you think. It's not about finding something that's lost. It's about understanding something that's always been within you. The connection you're seeking is not outside of you. It's inside. Nathaniel blinked, the weight of her words hitting him harder than he expected. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat reverberating in his ears. Inside, he had never thought of it that way. The heart mark, the bond with Emily, had always felt like an external force. But now, he realized he had been looking in the wrong place. Inside, he whispered, the word tasting strange on his tongue. But what does that mean? The woman took a step closer, her eyes filled with quiet wisdom. It means you've been searching for your own heart all along, Nathaniel. The heart mark was never lost. It's been waiting for you to find it within yourself. And only then, when you understand this, will the path to your true destiny be revealed. I am sure Nathaniel's mind was racing. The words the woman had spoken hung in the air like a thick fog, refusing to dissipate. Inside, he had spent so much of his life looking for something external, something to complete him, something to heal the broken parts of his soul. But now, she was telling him that the answer had always been within him. The heart mark was not an object to be found. It was not something he could simply retrieve. It was a reflection of his own inner journey, a part of himself that he had yet to truly understand. He stood there, his heart pounding, his mind whirling. The weight of the woman's words pressed on him, suffocating him with their profound simplicity. But how? He finally managed to ask, his voice barely a whisper. How can I find it inside me? I've been looking for so long, searching for something I thought was outside of me. The woman met his gaze, her eyes steady and calm, as though she had been waiting for him to ask this very question. The journey you've been on, Nathaniel, it was never about finding the heart mark. It was about discovering yourself. The connection you seek is not in a mark or in someone else. It's in you. You must look inward, find the pieces of yourself that you've hidden away, and embrace them. His breath caught in his throat as he tried to comprehend what she was saying. Nathaniel had always been so sure that the heart mark was the key to his destiny, that finding it would solve everything. But now, it seemed that his entire belief system was crumbling before him. The heart mark wasn't a thing to be found. It was a symbol of something much deeper. It was a representation of the bond he had with Emily, but not in the way he had imagined. It was about understanding himself, his own heart, his own soul. But what about Emily? He asked, his voice thick with uncertainty. I still don't understand. If the heart mark is inside me, what role does she play in all of this? The woman's expression softened, and for the first time, Nathaniel saw a flicker of warmth in her eyes. Emily has always been a part of your journey, Nathaniel. She is a mirror, a reflection of the connection you're learning to recognize within yourself. She was never the key to your heart mark. You were. Nathaniel's mind reeled at her words. She was telling him that everything he had believed about his relationship with Emily, about the bond they shared, had been a misunderstanding. He had always thought that Emily was the one who held the key to his heart, the one who would make him whole. But now, the truth was being revealed to him in a way that he had never imagined. His heart felt heavy, not with sadness, but with the weight of realization. So, I've been chasing a ghost? He asked, his voice tinged with a mix of disbelief and wonder. The woman nodded, her expression serene. In a way, yes. But not because Emily was ever a ghost, or because she didn't matter. She matters, Nathaniel. But the heart mark, your true destiny, has always been within you. You just needed to open your eyes to see it. Nathaniel stood there, speechless, overwhelmed by the enormity of what he was hearing. For the first time in his life, he felt as though he was on the brink of a revelation that would change everything. It wasn't about finding someone else to complete him. It was about embracing who he was, understanding the depth of his own heart, and learning to trust that the connection he sought had always been within him, waiting to be discovered. I am sure Nathaniel was standing there, stunned, as the weight of the woman's words sank in. He had always believed that his destiny was tied to the heart mark, to finding Emily and the bond they shared. But now, he realized that everything he thought he knew was wrong. The heart mark, the symbol of their connection, was not something to be found. It was something to be understood. His entire journey, his search for something outside of himself, had been a quest to find the missing pieces within. The woman's presence felt almost like a guide, someone who had been waiting for him to see the truth all along. She hadn't given him the answers he wanted, but she had shown him a path that led inward, to himself. Nathaniel looked down at his hands, as if expecting to see something change, something physical, but nothing was different. His heart was still pounding, his mind still racing, but there was a strange sense of peace beginning to settle over him. "So, what now?" he asked, his voice quiet, almost uncertain. "How do I begin?" The woman smiled, her expression softening. "You've already started, Nathaniel. The journey you've been on was never about finding the heart mark. It was about learning who you are. The connection you seek is not about another person. It's about understanding yourself. Only when you embrace who you are will you understand the bond you share with Emily." Nathaniel took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside him. Everything felt so overwhelming, yet also felt strangely right. He had spent so much of his life looking for something outside of himself to make him whole. But now, he realized that the true strength had always been within him, waiting to be unlocked. He could feel the weight of his responsibilities as the Alpha King pressing down on him, but for the first time, it felt lighter. He wasn't just a leader of a kingdom. He was a man discovering his own truth. "But what about Emily?" he asked again, his voice quieter this time, as though he were seeking reassurance. "She's always been the one I've been searching for. What does this mean for us?" The woman's gaze softened, and for the first time, she stepped forward. "Emily was never the answer, Nathaniel. She was the catalyst, the one who showed you what was missing inside you. She will always be a part of your journey. But the true bond is not something you can find externally. It's something you must cultivate within yourself. The heart mark was never lost, Nathaniel. It's not about finding it. It's about realizing that you've always carried it inside you." Nathaniel's mind swirled with the implications of her words. He had spent so long thinking that Emily was the key to his heart, the missing piece that would make him whole. But now, it seemed that the key was within him all along. He had to embrace who he truly was, not just as the Alpha King, but as Nathaniel Stone, the man with his own heart, his own journey, and his own destiny. The woman looked at him one last time, her eyes filled with quiet certainty. "Now go to her. Go to Emily, not as someone who is searching for something outside himself, but as someone who has already found everything they need within. Only then will you understand the true nature of your connection." Nathaniel nodded, his chest swelling with a mixture of emotions. He had come to this door searching for answers, but what he had found was something far greater. The journey had not been about finding the heart mark. It had been about finding himself. And now, he was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that the connection he sought was not something to be found, but something to be understood. He turned and walked away from the door, his steps steady, his heart lighter than it had ever been. I am sure Nathaniel was walking with a new sense of purpose. The weight he had been carrying for so long seemed to lift, replaced by a clarity that felt almost foreign to him. He had spent years as the Alpha King, leading his kingdom with strength and authority, but today, for the first time, he understood something more profound, something deeper than his title, his power, or his duties. The heart mark, the bond he thought he needed to find, had always been within him. He had spent so much of his life seeking completion in others, believing that his purpose lay in someone else's actions. But now, he knew that his destiny was to be found in himself, to embrace the pieces of him that he had hidden away, the parts he had never truly accepted. He had been running for so long, looking for answers, but the answers had always been inside. He walked steadily through the night, the cool breeze brushing against his face, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth. The world around him felt more alive, more vibrant than it ever had before. It was as if he could finally see everything clearly, as if the fog that had clouded his mind for so long had dissipated. His steps led him back to the place where his journey had begun, Emily's door. But this time, he was not the same man who had collapsed on her doorstep, searching for a heart mark that he believed had been lost. This time, he was different. He was whole. The woman's words still echoed in his mind. The connection you seek is inside you. He had come to realize that his bond with Emily, his love for her, was not something that depended on external validation or external circumstances. It wasn't something that could be lost or found. It was a part of him. It was something he carried within himself, something that could never be taken away. When he reached Emily's door, he paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. He didn't know what to expect when he saw her again, but he knew he was ready. Ready to face the truth. Ready to share what he had learned about himself. He knocked gently, the sound echoing in the quiet night. He waited, his heart beating steadily in his chest, as the door creaked open. Emily stood before him, her eyes wide with surprise, but there was no fear, no hesitation in her gaze. She had always been a part of his journey, but now it felt as if their paths were aligned in a way they never had been before. Nathaniel smiled softly, the weight in his heart finally lifting. "Emily," he said, his voice calm and steady, "I've come to tell you something important. I've spent so long thinking I needed to find something outside of myself. But now I realize that everything I've been searching for has always been within me. The heart mark, the connection, it was never about finding something lost. It was about understanding what I already had." Emily looked at him, her expression softening as she processed his words. For a moment, there was silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was as if they both understood something important had changed. "I don't understand everything you're saying," Emily finally said, her voice gentle. "But I think I understand you. I think I understand what you mean." Nathaniel nodded, his heart swelling with emotion. "It's not about what we think we're missing, Emily. It's about what we already have. I've been blind to it, but I see it now. I see us now. We don't need to search for the heart mark. It's inside us, always has been." Emily reached out, her hand gently touching his. In that moment, Nathaniel felt the bond they shared, stronger than any mark or symbol. It wasn't about the heart mark. It was about the connection between them, a connection that had always existed, even when he hadn't been able to see it. The journey had never been about finding something outside of himself. It had always been about understanding the power within. And now, for the first time, Nathaniel was ready to embrace it fully. Together, they stood there, the weight of the world falling away as they looked at each other, knowing that the true connection they sought had always been with them. I am sure Nathaniel stood there, the weight of everything finally beginning to sink in. The clarity that had eluded him for so long now felt as if it was part of him, as if he had been holding the answers within himself the entire time. Emily's touch, her gentle presence beside him, made him feel more grounded, more complete than he had ever felt before. The world around him seemed quieter, less overwhelming. It was as though the noise of his past struggles, the pressure of leadership, and the endless search for something he couldn't define had all faded into the background. He felt lighter and more at peace. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he was truly himself. Emily, standing next to him, seemed to sense the shift in him. Her hand, still lightly resting on his, brought a sense of warmth that he had longed for without even knowing it. "I can't fully explain everything you've said, Nathaniel," Emily said, her voice calm but filled with understanding. "But I can feel that something is different. Something has changed." Nathaniel smiled softly, his heart swelling with emotion. "It's not something that can be explained in words, Emily. It's something that needs to be felt, something that is already within us. I've spent my life looking for something outside of myself, but I realize now that what I was searching for was always inside. The heart mark, the bond we share, it's not something to be found. It's something to be recognized, embraced." Emily's eyes softened as she listened, and for a moment, they both simply stood there, connected not by words, but by the understanding that had blossomed between them. Nathaniel knew that their journey wasn't over, but it had taken a turn towards something deeper, something more real. The past struggles, the questions, the confusion, none of it mattered now. What mattered was the present, and the fact that they were together, understanding each other in a way they never had before. I've always known you were special, Nathaniel, Emily continued, her voice filled with warmth and sincerity. But I didn't know this side of you, the side that recognizes your own worth, your own strength. I've always admired you for your leadership, your courage, but now I see that the greatest strength you have is the ability to embrace yourself fully and completely. Nathaniel's breath caught at her words. I've been so focused on the expectations of others, on what I thought I should be. But now I realize that I am enough as I am. And what's more, we are enough together. The heart mark is just a symbol, but the connection we share goes beyond that. It's in our hearts. It's in the way we understand each other without needing to speak, without needing to explain. Emily's smile deepened, and for the first time, Nathaniel felt like they were on the same page, not just in their relationship, but in their individual journeys. It was no longer about searching for something to complete them. They were already whole. Together, they had found what they needed. As the night air whispered around them, Nathaniel reached out and gently took Emily's hand in his, pulling her a little closer. "This is just the beginning, Emily," he said, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "We don't need to search anymore. The answers were never out there. They were within us all along. And now that we know this, there's nothing we can't face, nothing we can't overcome, as long as we face it together." Emily nodded, her eyes shining with the same understanding. "Together," she echoed softly, her words carrying the promise of a future that was no longer uncertain. It wasn't about finding the heart mark, or about searching for some elusive destiny. It was about recognizing the power they already held, individually and as a pair, and embracing it fully. And with that, Nathaniel knew that he was ready for whatever came next, because he wasn't just the Alpha King. He was Nathaniel Stone, whole, complete, and unafraid of the future, with Emily by his side. I am sure Nathaniel stood still for a moment, feeling a sense of peace wash over him that he had never experienced before. For so long, he had carried the weight of his responsibilities, his kingdom, and the expectations of those around him. But now, with Emily by his side and the truth of who he was finally clear in his mind, he understood that he had been seeking something that was always inside him. The bond they shared was not a distant dream or something to be earned. It was already there, woven into the very fabric of who they were. Emily, her hand still gently resting in his, seemed to share in his calm. Her presence, once a source of curiosity and longing, now felt like home. Nathaniel realized that their connection had always been deeper than he had understood. It wasn't just about the heart mark or the role they played in each other's lives. It was about the quiet, unspoken understanding that existed between them, a bond that transcended the need for explanation or validation. "I never imagined that this is what it would feel like," Nathaniel said softly, his voice filled with wonder. "I thought I had to find something outside of me, something that would make me complete. But now I know that everything I needed was always inside." Emily squeezed his hand gently, her eyes meeting his with an expression that spoke volumes. "I think I always knew you were more than just the Alpha King," she said. "But I never understood the weight you carried, or how much you needed to find yourself. You've always been strong, Nathaniel, but now I see that your real strength comes from understanding who you are, from accepting that you're not just a leader, but a man who deserves peace, happiness, and love." Nathaniel's heart swelled at her words. It had always been hard for him to let his guard down, to show vulnerability. But with Emily, it felt different. He could feel her acceptance, her unconditional support, and it made him realize that he didn't have to carry the world on his shoulders alone. They were in this together. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I've spent so much of my life pushing everyone away, try to live up to expectations I never asked for," he admitted, his voice low. "But I don't want to keep running anymore. I want to be with you, Emily, not as the Alpha King, but as Nathaniel, a man who is not defined by his title or his past, but by the person I've become. Someone who can stand beside you, not above you." Emily's eyes glistened with emotion, and she stepped closer to him. "Nathaniel," she whispered, her voice trembling with sincerity, "I've never wanted you to be anyone other than who you are. I've always believed in you, in the person inside the king. And I've always known that together, we could face anything. Her words filled him with a sense of purpose, a sense of connection he had never known before. The bond between them wasn't about dominance or submission. It was about partnership, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of one another's strengths and vulnerabilities. "We're in this together," Nathaniel said, his voice steady now, filled with resolve. "And together, there's nothing we can't face. No matter what the future holds, as long as we face it side by side, I know we'll be all right." Emily nodded, her hand still in his, and for the first time, Nathaniel felt that everything was falling into place. The journey that it started with, uncertainty and confusion, had led him to this moment of clarity. He wasn't alone anymore, and he wasn't searching for something he would never find. He had found himself, and in doing so, he had found the true meaning of the bond he shared with Emily. Together, they were whole, and together, they would face whatever came next, knowing that the strength they shared would always guide them forward. I am sure Nathaniel's heart was racing, but this time, it wasn't with anxiety or fear. It was with anticipation, a deep sense of knowing that everything had finally clicked into place. The weight he had carried for so long, the expectations of being the Alpha King, the constant search for meaning, it all seemed so far away now. Standing beside Emily, he felt the world slow down. The future was no longer a terrifying unknown. It was a place full of possibilities, and most importantly, he wasn't facing it alone. Emily's presence beside him felt like the anchor he had always needed. He had spent so much of his life pushing forward, doing what was expected of him, but now, as he stood at the edge of a new chapter, he knew that his strength didn't come from titles or power. It came from the deep, unwavering connection they shared. Emily squeezed his hand, her touch grounding him further. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she said softly, her voice filled with warmth. Nathaniel nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Yes, but it feels like we've only just begun." It was a strange feeling, one he had never expected. Peace. Not the peace of resting after a long battle, but the peace of finally understanding himself, of finally seeing what had been there all along. The connection with Emily was not a fleeting thing, not something that could be broken or lost. It was a part of who they were, something unshakable, rooted in their hearts. He turned toward her, his gaze steady and full of certainty. "I know now that everything I was searching for was always inside me," he said, his voice low but clear. "And I know that no matter what comes next, we can face it together." Emily smiled, her eyes shining with affection and understanding. "Together," she repeated, her words a quiet promise. Nathaniel could feel the strength of that promise in his chest. A promise not just to Emily, but to himself. He had spent years searching for validation, for someone or something to fill the empty spaces inside him. But now, he knew that the only person who could truly fill those spaces was himself. And with Emily by his side, he didn't need to search any longer. They were already whole. They had already found everything they needed in each other. As the sun began to rise, casting a soft golden light over the world around them, Nathaniel felt a sense of hope rise within him. The future was bright, not because everything would be easy, but because they had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had each other, and that was all they would ever need. "We'll face it all," Nathaniel said, his voice filled with conviction. "Together, we can overcome anything." Emily nodded, her smile widening as she leaned into him. And for the first time in a long while, Nathaniel felt truly free, not bound by the expectations of the past, but ready to step forward into the future, where the journey they had started together would continue, full of love, trust, and the unbreakable bond they had forged.